Hello, and welcome to this Facebook Live. Today, I am covering a very interesting topic that I think a lot of us know about, and it's teens and anxiety. We are seeing a high rise on. Let me put up my phone on Do Not Disturb because I always get calls when I'm going on these or my podcast or something. But so we see a rise on teenagers' anxiety, and most parents, I know most parents, we blame it on social media. But what does it actually mean? And how is social media actually affecting our teenagers? And what can we do about it? I know we all want to know, how can I help my teenager have less anxiety? But if we really don't understand the causes of why social media has gotten them to this point, it's really we don't get the buy-in to help them out. So it's really important that we understand what teenagers are really going through. Yes, they do have anxiety. So a lot of the times anxiety is a learned behavior. It's a learned behavior from either from home or from their peers or from the phone, right? So things like that. So it's a learned behavior and it feeds off the stress. So I was talking to one of my colleagues the other day, and we're discussing how interesting it is, even for us as therapists, that emotions are chemical reactions in the body that last for 20 to 60 seconds. An emotional reaction, an emotion is it's a chemical reaction in our body that lasts between 20 and 60 seconds. And you and I know that sometimes we get upset, and that emotion stays for the whole day. So why, if that emotion was only 20-second reaction in our body, why does it stay all day? Why does it ruin our day? Why does it ruin our week? Why does it ruin our month or whatever it is? So teenagers have the same process. So, and remember, teenagers are still developing their frontal lobe. A lot of times we see them like big, and then they act and they talk and they feel like they know everything, but we forget that teenagers are still developing. Their frontal lobe is still developing. That means the abstract part of their brain is still making connections. It's still they still understand concrete, and they're developing that part of the brain that deals with communication, with emotion regulation, with things like that. So sometimes we expect teenagers to do or to act or to perform or to communicate a certain way, but their brains are just not there. Something that I was talking about in one of my reels this week is teenagers do care what other people think. That's part of the normal brain development, because they're still trying to connect to people. They're still trying to develop their own identity, to figure out who they are. So they do care what other things, because that's the way that we start fitting into society. So when we tell teenagers like, oh, you shouldn't care what other people think, it's like we're telling them like, oh, you shouldn't grow, because that's part of their growth. That's part of their brain development. So why is social media, why is technology affecting our teenagers, and how? So a lot of the times is we feel connected when we have an electronic. So Instagram, Snapchat, text message, DMs, and all those things help us have a sense of connection, but it's a very surface level of connection. What we humans crave, and especially teens, is a really deep sense of connection and of belonging. So that sense of connection that they get from text messages and Snapchats is not really the real thing that they need. So they keep craving for more, and they keep craving for more, and they really don't have that sense of connection, of deep connection, of belonging. And that drives them to isolation, and that drives them to feeling lonely, to not really having anybody. They can have thousands and thousands of friends on the phone and on their apps or whatever, and they can be Snapchatting every 5 seconds, but that really doesn't fulfill the need of connection that our brain needs to feel like we belong. And that drives them to isolation, that drives them to feeling lonely, and that drives them to anxiety, and a lot of the times depression. And anxiety comes from that, because every time they get a ding, or they get a text, or they get something, it's a drop of serotonin, and it makes us happy, makes us feel like we're connected. And then when we don't have that, we're constantly checking our phone to see if somebody wants to connect with us or with the teenagers. So that's part of why social media and electronics in general makes them have more anxiety, because they feel that connection, but it's an empty connection. It's not fulfilling. It's not feeling that void of belonging and truly having a friendship and being understood and having those laughs and having those type of interactions that come from being with a group of people in person. So yes, they may have a lot of friends online, but they really are lacking that sense of connection. So that's one of the things. That's how one of the reasons why social media and electronics is affecting our kids' anxiety, because they really don't, they feel a false sense of connection. They drive to loneliness, and then they get into anxiety and depression, or the anxiety comes from wanting to check their phones all the time to see who's wanting to connect with them, and the sense of belonging. So, and we know there's a sense of comparison. They feel like their life is boring. I mean, even me sometimes when I look at all this curated material and content that I see on social media, even about the people that I know, especially with like influencers or celebrities, we have they get a sense of, well, my life is not that important. My life is not really that interesting. And so it's a constant reminder of who they are not. It's a constant reminder of what they're lacking in their life. And remember, this is social media and electronics is not the enemy. So that's why at the end, I'm gonna discuss tips on what you can do to help them feel connected. But this is just the reality of with what we live in, and especially what they live in. And it's us too as adults, but it's mostly for them, because their brain is still, like I said, making those connections and having that urgency of connecting and bonding and belonging. So it affects them more. That part of the brain that is not still completely developed makes them feel things, feel them deeper, and feel them for longer. So that sense of loneliness that I was talking about, it feels deeper and longer than what it really is. The sense of like, I am not good enough. I'm comparing myself to all these people and I'm not good enough. They feel it deeper and for longer periods of time. I know that teenagers have attitudes, and teenagers have moodiness, and teenagers have all these things. They're rebellious, but that's just because they're regulating their thoughts. They're going 2,000 miles an hour, and who they belong, where they belong, and who they need to talk to, where do they need to go, what sports they need to play, and all these stressors are very real for them, because now they have a sense of what the world has to offer, not just the neighborhood, not just the family members and things like that, like we used to when you and I grew up, but now they have a sense of what the world needs to offer and what they're lacking. So once they feel like they're lacking good parents, they're lacking the new shoes, they're lacking the new phone, they're lacking whatever it is they feel they're lacking, it gives them the sense of, I'm not good enough. And that's where the anxiety comes in. And then also, it can also be a double-edged sword, because they're wanting to fill that void. They're wanting to belong. They're wanting to have the material things or live the life of the influencer or whatever it is. So it's a constant reminder that they need to do better, that they need to be better. And some of our teenagers feel so overwhelmed by that they rather not do anything. And I'm seeing that more and more and more nowadays. They just kind of shut down from the world because they don't feel like they're good enough. They don't feel like they offer anything to the world. So that is a constant comparison with social media. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about, there's many reasons why electronics and social media is affecting our teenagers, and the rise number of anxiety diagnoses. But the last one I want to talk about is about information overload. Being constantly connected to an electronic, to the news, to the DMs, to the notifications on the phone, being in constant connection. And there's no stop, and we feel like the fear of missing out if we don't know what what the day of Taylor Swift new album is going to be at, which obviously I do know because I'm a Swiftie, if you don't know, but like, we have to feel constantly connected about what's going on in the world, about the latest thing, about the latest, iPhone 17 or whatever. So we're in constant connection and information. We're constantly consuming information, and their brain is, it's not made to handle that much. So, but the brain feels good in having information because it feels like like it's connected to something, but it's a false sense. And so they need more and they need more, and then that brings them more to feeling overwhelmed, the fear of missing out, and that's why they lose sleep. That's why you see so many, melatonin. I don't know. I think every teenager that I see in my practice, they take melatonin, which is great. Or they take other sleeping supplements, which is, but because it's something that sleep, but why are they not sleeping well? And that's a real issue. It's like, why are we going through this stage, through this? This is a known thing. Like, I feel like every teenager, like I said, takes some kind of sleeping aid or anxiety aid because we're in constant connection and consuming information. And like, I was talking to one of my clients on Monday, and she was telling me about how in the last 2 weeks she wanted to get more, and it's just a teenager. She wanted to get more information about the world, what's happening, whatever, and how her mood changed throughout this time, and she was feeling very sad. She was feeling very disconnected. She was feeling like she couldn't do anything about it because of the constant consuming of the news. She was watching the news constantly, and there were so many things going on, and the world is such a bad place and things like that. So I was discussing with her, you have a choice of not consuming that much information, that much bad news, because that's going to raise your anxiety and that's going to raise your depressive symptoms. So putting a limit really on the amount of consumption, especially on news, but in everything, and just notifications and things like that. I had another live a while ago where I was talking about turn notifications off your phone, because we live in a fragmented world where our attention, yes, I may be paying attention right now, but if I didn't put my phone on do not disturb, I'll be getting dings, and my brain, whether I pay attention to it or not, my brain still goes to my phone lighting up. There's a hit of serotonin and I'm distracted, and now I just lost 20 seconds or 20 or 25 seconds or whatever time it is that distraction costs, even when I don't pay attention. So teenagers are constantly in that, yes, I'm present, but I'm on my phone. I'm present, but I'm on my phone. I'm present, but I'm getting these notifications. I'm getting this snap, and I'm getting a snap from the guy that I like, or I'm getting the snap from the girl that I like, or whatever, and then that's a whole distraction, and the brain does not feel present. And again, that causes that sense of disconnection. And I see so many teenagers, they feel like they're not even present in this world. They feel so detached from the reality that they live in, because we have that constant disconnection from the brain and the present. So I know I gave you a lot of information. Now for the good stuff. Can you do something about it? Absolutely. We can do something about it. We're not going to take away their phones. We're not going to prohibit them from having apps or anything like that, because that's part of their world already. That is part of who they are. That's part of how they develop right now. But what can you do to improve even a little bit? The strategy number one is spend at least 15 minutes every day. 15 minutes. It's not that long. 15 minutes of undivided attention for both of you. Phones away, electronics away, no TV, no music, no nothing, just 15 minutes. I mean, you can have, I guess, background music, but 15 minutes of undivided attention for both of you. So you don't have your phone and they don't have their phones. It can be a ride, you can drive around, you can go for ice cream or whatever, and you can have those 15 minutes, you can go for a walk, whatever it is that you want to do, but at least 15 minutes of that undivided, uninterrupted attention with phones facing down, nobody gets notifications, nobody pays attention to that, and it's just connection and bonding. That's face-to-face interaction. So what do I talk to them about? Ask them about their day. No interruptions, no judging, no life lessons, so they keep connecting with your teenager. So not every conversation has to be like, wow, you were supposed to do this, and did you get this done? Did you get this done? It's like giving them commands. No, 15 minutes of just conversation. How was your day? How did you feel about your day today, about the conversation that you had with your friend, or about that performance that you did, or but whatever. Have them tell you about their day, about something they're struggling with. How do you feel about being on your phone all the time? Like, do you have anybody that you compare yourself to? Is there anybody that makes you jealous? Is there any, just open the conversation, open-ended questions, listen without judgment, listen without interruptions, and don't give them a life lesson. 15 minutes a day, every day. So that's what you can do as a parent. 15 minutes a day of no interruptions, no notifications, no phones, no electronics, just plain conversation and connection. What else can you do? Remember, they're always comparing themselves to anybody and everybody that is online. So one way that you can do this is by raising their self-esteem, by helping them identify who they are. So to do this, focus on their personality traits. Focus on noticing the little things that they do every day or every other day or whatever, but focus on the little things that they do, not necessarily on grades, not necessarily on achievements, on the goals that they score at the game and things like that. So grades, if they got a good grade on a test, but they studied for that test, it's like, you know what? Good job at studying for the test. I know that you studied a lot for the test, even though you didn't want to, or even though this is not your favorite subject, or whatever. You work really hard to get that grade. And you see, you work really hard to get that grade. It doesn't matter if the grade is 100. It doesn't matter if the grade is a 70. It's just you work hard to get that grade. So that's a personality trait, and that's something that, oh, I'm a hard worker. If I put in the time to studying, if I put in the time to practice, if I put in the time to warm up or whatever it is that they're doing, like my youngest does a competitive cheerleading, and sometimes when she has practice, she goes to her practice, but then on days that she doesn't have practice, she drives herself to the gym and she puts in the time and the repetition so that she does well what she needs to do. So I always tell her, like, baby girl, I'm so proud of your determination to be the best athlete that you can be. So I focus on her personality trait of determination. Another thing you can say is, like, I really admire how you were kind to your sister today. Another one is, you know what? I'm glad that you're starting to use your words to express your emotions, to express yourself. So whenever they use words to communicate, instead of tantrums, instead of, being rebellious and things like that, thank you for using your words. That helps a lot. So just reminding them of that helps them use those words more, communicate more effectively. And I remember when my kids were growing up, I don't know, 12, 13 or whatever, and they would try to communicate something to me, and they were like, I don't know, yell or mood or just kind of an attitude or eye roll or whatever. And I would sit there in front of them. I was like, baby girl, I'm going to wait for you so that you can think of the words that you can say to express to me what you're feeling. Obviously, I was a therapist already, so yes, I had practice doing this. But that's the thing that you can do with your child. So I'm giving you some wisdom as a therapist. What are the strategies that you can do and say to them so that you can help them out? Okay. I can see that, like, whenever they're eye rolling or rebellious or they're trying to yell or throwing a tantrum, whatever it is. Okay, I see that you're frustrated, or I see that you're upset, or I see that you don't like something. Help me understand what you're feeling right now. Can you use your words? Can you express to me what you're feeling so I can try to understand you better? So help me understand you better. So, just either you don't have to help. Maybe they don't need help, but just to help them understand better. So tell them that. Help me understand yourself better a little bit in this situation. What's going on? Without judgment. So be careful with that question, why? Why are you being like this? Why sounds very judgmental. So it's, help me understand this. Help me understand what's going on. What's the feeling? What's the situation? Why are you uncomfortable? I guess I can say why, but you see how it doesn't sound like why you're like that. Like it's just the tone also, but try to avoid the question why. So ask them in some other way. But like I said, it's just a recognition of those traits and recognition of how they speak and how they communicate their needs. And that communication, that connection brings that sense of deep connection of belonging with you, which is going to help them get out of or diminish the anxiety symptoms. And the last one that I'm going to tell you, the last strategy that I'm going to share with you is challenge your teenager to spend at least 2 hours a week It can be 2 hours a week, but at least 2 hours a week off electronics. I know but they always have their phone though. Like they might not be on their phone all the time, or you might have limits on their phones or whatever. So that's great. If you do that already, that's great. But if you don't, if they have their phones on themselves all the time, challenge them to separate themselves from the phone for at least 2 hours a week, 2 hours a day, 2 hours every 3 days, whatever it is that you want to create for your child. Have them physically separate from their phone a couple of hours. Like I said, either once a week, twice a week, every day, whatever it is. And that is going to have a sense of like, oh, wait, my world is not just right here, my world is out here. So that gives them a sense of attachment to the world, and let them be bored for a little bit. Sometimes they have limitations on their phones for games or for social media and things like that, but they're on their phones just playing with a calculator, or yeah, I don't know, but it's just they're so attached to their phones, and I see it in my therapy room all the time. They have their phones next to them, and they're checking and they're checking. So for the clients that I happen to do that, I actually have a box where I have them put their phones there so they can be completely separated from their phones and for notifications, so that they can focus on therapy. So try that also with your teenager and see how that goes. Like I say, you can set the limits and have them separate from their phones so they have a sense of presence. Let them, like I said, let them get bored. Bored actually sparks creativity. Craft, like if you want to show, do a puzzle or do something else, or teach them how to cook something, which is going to be very helpful for when they go to college, when they're 15, 16. It's like, okay, 2 hours without phones, what can we do? Okay, you know what, let's prepare dinner, or let's meal prep, or let's do something together away from our phones. And that's a skill, obviously, they're going to help. It's going to help for when they get older. So help them separate from their phones so that they don't need it all the time. So I hope that you guys enjoy this, that you guys are taking advantage of this. I know that this is an issue, like I said, that I see a lot of the times with my clients about attachment to social media and electronics and their phones and things like that. So I wanted to share this with you because I see the anxiety levels of these teenagers on the rise all the time, and I see it on the parents that call me that they want to book an appointment with me and things like that. So it's important that we are aware and what it is that we can do. If you have any more questions, if you have anything, any comments, please let me know. Send me a DM through Facebook, through Instagram. I also have my YouTube channel, the Parenting Lab, where I'm going to post this at also. And so any questions that you have, any struggles that you have with your teenager, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to assist you. I have on my website, xochitrodriguez.com, I have resources I have a social media challenge that is only $17, and it's a 10-day reset for your teenager, where I share a lot of the tips. Well, I share some of the tips I have here, but obviously it goes more in depth. So I have a social media challenge. I also have a teen motivation map, because I know a lot of teenagers struggle with motivation and why they should do things, because they're so distracted with this, and they don't understand, like it's hard for them to make the connection of why they should be doing things like chores or learn how to cook and things like that. So I have a teen motivation map in there. And also my website, I have a teenage self-esteem accelerator. That is probably one of my favorite programs that I have created, because it's 7 weeks of I give you like a little bit of a video in the beginning, like maybe a minute or a minute and a half video, and then every day you have a PDF, you have a task list to do every day. It's only like 5 minutes that you can do every day, so it doesn't take that long. So it's 5 minutes a day that you can help boost your teenager self-esteem. And we know self-esteem, first of all, is so low right now with them because of the comparison of social media. And this is something that you're going to help them with right now, and it's going to help them for life. We know self-esteem, confidence is something that it's transferable throughout social setting, through professionalism, through the ages. So actually, when I was creating, I was like, this is something that I have done with my clients all the time. This is something that I did with my own kids. This is some of the things that I did with myself, even as an adult. So I know that this is going to help your teenager in so many ways, and maybe it can help you. You might be surprised about the things that I have in there. So it's a very thorough program for 7 weeks, because it takes time to build that self-confidence. You don't tell a teenager, you don't tell somebody else like, oh, you're great at this, and oh yeah, you expect their self-esteem to go up. No, it's a slow, progressive process that you work with them, and you share with them what they are best, and you help them discover what they're best at, so that you help them grow their own self-esteem, and they're gonna bloom. So, and that's a self-esteem. I can talk about that one forever because I love it. And then obviously my other resource I have there is the Parenting Lab. It's a comprehensive how to connect with your teenager. I talk about communication. I talk about boundaries. I talk about giving them freedoms. I talk about identity. I talk about you keeping your own identity as a mother, so that you don't get lost whenever your teenagers go off. So those are the resources that I have on my website, xochitrodriguez.com. You can find it on my bio, so that, because I know my name is not easy to spell, but I have all my resources in there. So if there's anything else that I can do for you guys, please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to answer all your questions. Thank you.